All right, we're about to dive into a pretty provocative idea, the kind that gets people talking. We're going to explore how consensual cuckolding, when you really look at the psychology of it, might actually be a more honest and maybe even healthier alternative to deceptive cheating. Yeah, it's a challenging topic, but the research is kind of forcing a conversation. So let's get into it. So, this is really the core question, right? What if betrayal had a consensual alternative? Look, we're not here to tell you what's right or wrong for your relationship, not at all. We're here to examine this idea. What if the sheer destructive force of infidelity could be replaced by a framework that's actually built on honesty and consent? Okay, so first things first. To even understand the alternative, we need to get a handle on the sheer scale of the problem we're talking about. Just how widespread and how damaging is infidelity really? Now, these numbers, you have to remember, this is just what people are willing to admit to. The Institute for Family Studies tells us at least 20% of men and 13% of women report cheating. But come on, we all know that when surveys are truly anonymous, those numbers tend to jump up a lot. So it's this huge hidden issue happening all around us. And the consequences, the fallout, it is just devastating. Infidelity is named as a factor in a staggering 55% of divorces. This isn't just some private mistake. It's a primary driver in the collapse of millions of households. The damage is real, it's tangible, and it is widespread. But, divorce is just the part you can see. The invisible damage is arguably so much worse. Groundbreaking research by Dr. Shirley Glass found that when a person discovers an affair, the trauma symptoms they experience can be clinically indistinguishable from PTSD. Now, let's be clear, this isn't a formal diagnosis, but it's a clinical comparison to show you the severity. This is not just getting your feelings hurt. We are talking about a profound psychological injury.
Okay, so this brings us right to the absolute core of the argument. It's a single concept that literally changes everything. Consent.
And you can see the fundamental difference laid out right here. Consent isn't just, a moral preference. It's a neurological event. Deception signals threat and violation to your brain. It steals your agency. Consent, on the other hand, signals choice and safety. The exact same act can be processed by your brain as either trauma or pleasure, based entirely on which side of this divide it falls on. Here's a really powerful analogy to make that point stick. Imagine someone forces food into your mouth. The food isn't the problem, right? The violation of your choices. Well, it's the same in relationships. The sexual act itself often isn't what causes the deepest wound. It's the act of having a sexual reality forced on you without your knowledge or consent. That's the violation. So, the crucial point is this. Research by Dr. Terry Connolly at the University of Michigan has found, again and again, that deception is the single most powerful predictor of negative outcomes in relationships. It's the lying, it's the hiding. That's the toxic part, not the desire itself. And cheating is, by its very nature, built on a foundation of deception, while consensual arrangements, by definition, have to eliminate it. So if deception is the poison, how does this all play out with a relationship's most vital nutrient, trust? Well, the results are actually pretty counterintuitive. Cheating inflicts what psychologists call an epistemic injury. It's a fancy term, but what it means is devastating. It's not just that you can't trust your partner anymore. The real damage is that you can't trust your own reality. Every memory, every I love you, every shared moment suddenly becomes suspect. The deception is so deep it makes you question your own sanity. Now contrast that with the path of honesty. This is what's required for a consensual arrangement. And look, this is not some chaotic free-for-all. It's a highly structured process of communication. It means radical vulnerability, setting crystal clear boundaries and rules, and constant, continuous check-ins. It's hard work, for sure, but it's that very work that builds this incredibly deep foundation of trust. All right, let's get into the emotional landscape. What does it actually feel like to be on these two completely different paths? Because believe me, the outcomes are worlds apart. Let's talk about the big one, the elephant in the room for this whole conversation: jealousy. Everyone brings it up, and for good reason. It's a powerful emotion. And yeah, it exists in both scenarios, but how it works is completely different. And this is such a crucial distinction. The jealousy that comes from betrayal is a traumatic response. It's a reaction to a wound that has already been inflicted. It's uncontrollable and retrospective. But in a consensual context, jealousy is just data. It's an emotion you can talk about in real time. You can navigate it together as a team. It goes from being this destructive force to a relationship skill you can actually develop.
And on that path of consent, a completely new emotion even becomes possible: compersion. It's basically the opposite of jealousy. It's feeling genuine joy at your partner's happiness and pleasure. Now, this is fundamentally impossible in a cheating scenario because the deception just poisons everything. Compersion is an emotion that only radical honesty can unlock.
Okay, so moving beyond the purely psychological, what are the concrete, real-world consequences? Let's take a quick look at health, family, and even how you see yourself in the mirror. When you break it down, the comparison is just stark. Cheating completely removes your partner's ability to give informed consent to health risks. It plants a ticking time bomb of discovery right under your family's stability. And it forces the person cheating to become a liar, which slowly erodes their own self-respect. Consensual arrangements, on the other hand, require you to deal with all these issues head-on, with honesty. So, this is where we bring it all home. At its core, this entire explainer isn't really about promoting one lifestyle over another. It's actually a powerful argument for something much bigger: radical honesty. I mean, just look at this side by side. Deception systematically destroys trust. Consent intentionally builds it. Cheating shrinks communication down to conceal the truth. Honesty expands it to reveal the truth. Cheating often ends up reducing desire for the primary partner, while consensual novelty can, surprisingly, increase it. And the worst-case scenario? For cheating, it's deep psychological trauma. For cuckolding, it's having a difficult conversation to renegotiate an agreement. The difference is just profound. And here's the real takeaway. The problem isn't that human beings have complex desires. That's just a biological fact of life. The problem is that our culture gives us almost no tools to navigate those desires other than shame and secrecy. Cheating is just a symptom of that much bigger cultural failure. And this brings us right to the final and most important takeaway. This isn't really about cuckolding specifically. It's about honesty. The couple who can have a conversation like this, even if they decide on 100% absolute monogamy, has already become stronger. They've chosen to face complexity together instead of hiding from it. So the only question that really matters is this: what conversation does your relationship need to have?